What's the word? What's the word? I'm JJ. I'm back again with another episode. And you already know, man, if you're watching this, yes, if you're watching this, do not look away. Good things are going to happen for you. Alright, by this time, man, you already know how the story goes, man. I'll leave the links in the description below. And you just click on it and boom, it's that simple. So today, as you can see, I'll be reviewing one of the worst albums of I'll be reviewing the worst albums of 2026. I know, it's a little bit controversial. Yeah, I know if you don't like it, ain't nobody stopping you, bruh, from switching off the video. You can switch it off right now. You can switch it off right now if you know. But what I am going to say in this episode, man, is gonna ruffle a few feathers. But anyways, let's get into it. So 2026 was off to a good start. Music-wise, album releases and whatnot. But there were a few bad apples. There were a few not so good albums and not so good singles and not so good releases. And one of those, as much as I hate to say this, because I love this rapper, man. I think he's one of the dopest, and his style is so languid, so lazy, but it still works for him. And I'm talking about none other than Huncho. Not one of them is a 2026 album by Atlanta rapper Huncho, released on February 6th, 2026. As of late March 2026, the album has garnered significant initial streaming numbers and strong chart placement in the US and international markets. Okay, so this is not about the streams. Okay, this is not about the streams. This is not about the album sales. This is not about the viral moments or the trending songs. No, this is just about what I listened to and what I heard. It's a big no for me. It's a big no for me. And I'm going to explain my reasons why later on in the video. But for now, I'm just going to give you the numbers. Let me break down the numbers for you. Streaming and sales highlights as of March 22nd, 2026. Okay, total Spotify streams for Huncho's Not One of Them has accumulated over 4 million streams on Spotify with a daily stream count of approximately 38,873 streams a day. Okay, so let's break down the Apple Music performance. The album reached the top 200 on Apple Music, peaking at number 122 in the United States, number 67 in Belize, and 168 in Luxembourg. Okay, so Huncho's monthly listeners. So Huncho maintains over 2.19 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Okay. Now the key tracks and album context. Now we're breaking it down now. The album features Free the Press, Life Been Hard, and Stone Cold featuring G Herbo. The project is considered a 2020 release that explores the internal trauma associated with this rapid rise in the rap scene. Okay. Now this is where I'm going to break it down for you. Is Huncho talented? Yes. There's no disputing his talent. But this is not like his previous project. This new project, Not One of Them, it's not his best work. Even though, some blogs and some vlogs and some, music outlets, they rate the project from 5 going upwards. So Rap Reviews rated the project at 6.5. And well, personally for me, I rate it lower than that, I'm afraid. If Rap Reviews rates the project 6.5, I rate the project, man, a strong 4.5. The reason being, it sounded like a bunch of songs made the night before. Like a bunch of songs that you made the night before you're about to write an exam. It's like studying before you write for your exam the next day. Sonically, he hasn't changed, and there wasn't much depth. lyrically, in my opinion, to grab your attention. Not one of his best works. And that's not to say that, who knows why, the album felt so rushed, but the songs, everything just becomes so repetitive, he's talking about the same things, the same pains. And it just feels like there's no creative growth. You're still stuck on the same melodies, the same themes, the same talking points. And I wish that, Hancho could, show some versatility, change it up a bit, change the style, changes the instrumentation. But that's just my opinion. So in that regard, man, for me, the album, if you're a Hancho fan, a diehard fan, man, probably for you, man, probably it's a 7 or 8 or 9. But if you're just a music listener like myself, who loves music, who loves different tastes, different vibes, different genres, and if you probably like me, you probably will rate this project not that highly. And the reason why is because of the reasons that I just said, previously, just felt like a bunch of songs that you recorded the night before, slapped them together like a ham sandwich, and you said, there you go. And you forgot the mayonnaise, forgot the lettuce, forgot the tomatoes, you forgot the sauce. You didn't even toast the bread. You just like slapped it on. It's like, yeah, there you go. Just release something. So could you have done better? Yes. But anyways, that's just my take. Number 2 on the list, Hit Boy and Spank and TT James. Yeast Talking. Man, I was so disappointed when I heard this. Because Hit Boy, him being a producer and all, I thought that maybe, his current work or his current release would somehow be along the same lines as Buddha Bliss, Michael Made It, who I'm going to review later on. What else was the other producer that I said? Okay, anyways, never mind. So I thought it to be along the same lines as Buddha Bliss, Michael Made It, but disappointingly turned out to be quite a drab affair. So, and its original release date was November 27, 2025. I can only guess why they released the deluxe version on February this year, 2026. Not because it was doing well, because if it was doing well, we probably would have, blown up last year, but it didn't. So my guess is the deluxe version of this album is a way of trying to feature some more projects, some more songs, some more features, because the original release didn't do quite well. And that's just my opinion. But well, the project does feature several guests, including Rio the Young OG, Babytron, and O3 Credo. And the weak points about this album, man, this album just didn't sound good. Just at all didn't sound good. And I don't think that the Hit Boy and Spank James collab was actually doing wonders. I don't think it's actually, being fruitful, but that's just my opinion, because the album really didn't do well. And, just looking at the numbers, just didn't do well. And the only weak points that I have about this album is sonically it just doesn't sound good. It's just not a good album. I don't even remember one track. I kid you not. I don't even remember one track that stood out for me. I remember listening to the first two tracks, and after that, I was just skimming through tracks. I wasn't even paying attention to any tracks. And I think I'm justified because I don't see anybody making noise about this release, about this, about this album. So I think the taste is definitely in the pudding, and yeah, for me, it wasn't a great album. It wasn't a good album. One of the worst albums of 2026. Moving along, LMA. No, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying LMA is whack. I'm not saying LMA is not a good artist. I'm not saying LMA. None of that. All I'm saying is LMA. She had a couple of songs. The album is called. I think. Do You Still Love Me? Yeah. Do You Still Love Me? And I had a couple of, joints there that I liked. But the problem, the only weak point about this album is basically its time. I mean, and what I mean by time is, it's now a young man's game. She's been in the game since 2017, I think. It's now 2026. So she's been here for, I think 2017, 2018. So, she's fairly been in the game. And right now, I think the only weak point about this album is just a matter of fact of time. Time has caught up to her, like time will catch up to all of us. And I don't think now she's at the stage where she can compete with a newer audience, especially with this new generation. And the only reason why, even on the streaming charts, man, the album is fairly doing well is because she already has a core audience that, that follows her, obviously, that listens to her, that, still invested in a career. So if you're not a LMA fan, this album skipped you, it went way over your head, and you probably haven't heard it before. That's it. But if you are, man, you probably like the album because you're LMA fan. But if you're just a new fan, newer generation, you probably skip this album. Why? Because of time. Because it's like time catches up to everybody. That's just it. Number 4, Baby Kim, Casino. I know. A lot of people watching this are like, what? Baby Kim? You put Baby Kim here as one of the worst albums of 2026? Hear me out. Okay, the album debuted at number 4 in the Billboard 200 with 72,000 in its first week, including 16,500 pre sales. The final number slightly edges past the earlier projections and locks in a major milestone. It is now his second top 10 album, the highest charting debut of his career. The extended gap between projects amplified expectations, particularly given the narrative surrounding his role within a creative collective that prioritizes storytelling and aesthetic continuity over algorithms. As of now, Kim is not a household name in the traditional sense, and Casino may not be the vehicle that forces that transformation immediately. But perhaps this is not the objective. Okay, for me, Casino is ultimately just another entry in his catalog that builds towards longevity. And maybe that's more compelling at this point in time in his story than instant gratification. Okay. So as much as this album was, a lot of people anticipated this album, Casino is not the coronation. Okay. I think instead it functions as a recognition of the projection surrounding him since his debut. Okay, the record feels larger and more deliberate than the melodic blue. The album leans inward rather than outward through polished yet explosive production. using a three-part documentary companion piece to reinforce his autobiographical in autobi, autobi, autobiographical intentions. Okay, okay, and this album, Baby Kim, man, the album peels back layers of personal trauma. You know, talks about his mom, his family history. You know, even though for half a decade, the Twitter prophets and group chats and A&Rs have tried to convince you that Baby Kim is the future of hip hop, I think is not. I think he's just one of the many elements and one of the many artists who ties and who weaves into the hip hop culture, but I don't think that he is that guy to really take hip hop to the next level. I don't think it's him. Yes, Kim has inherited expectations, because him being the reason being him being related to Kendrick Lamar and whatnot, and his collaborations. So that raises expectations quite a bit. But in the sense, I don't think Baby Kim is the next generational leader to take hip hop to the next level. Now, weak points in the album, to be honest with you, sounded like a lot like Kendrick. Kendrick's influence is clearly visible. His style, everything, his demeanor, his cadence, his artistry. I resonate. I hear a lot of Kendrick. I hear a lot of Kendrick and not enough of Baby Kim, and that's just only the weak points. And that's just my opinion. Like I feel like when I listen to Baby Kim, I can pick up on Kendrick. And for me, he has to start disassociating himself from that and start really trying to create his own mystique, his own aura. Anyways, but that's just my opinion. Moving along, Brent, the next album on the chart, the next album on the list, man, is Brent Fayez, Icon, third studio album. I'm not a Brent Fayez fan. I don't know how you say his surname. Brent, if you're listening, I'm sorry, my guy. Brent, I just did not like this album, Icon. I did not like this album for whatever reason. I'm not a Brent Fayez fan. I've never been. I've tried to listen and figure out what people find so fascinating about him. I have discovered nothing. Not that I'm a hater, but I just have discovered nothing. I really don't see the hype. And this album, to tell you the truth, man, I think I only liked one song. I think it was Butterflies, and the rest was a hard listen to. Hard listen. Man, I had to smoke glue. I had to smoke like 10 joints. I had to drink like a case of beers just to stay motivated to listen to this album. So for me, it's a big no, and for me, in my opinion, it's one of the worst R&B albums of 2026. Big points. Brent Fayez has always felt like, for me, like a poor man's Frank Ocean. Basically, I've always felt like Brent could have been or surpassed Frank Ocean, but for some reason it just never took off. For some reason it just stayed well below his par. But that's just my opinion. Next on the list is Sleazy World Go, I Want Blood. Man, this album, I listened to it. If you're not a Sleazy World Go fan, like naturally, and you probably listen to one or two joints, but it probably won't stick. Probably you'll listen to it, but it's one of those albums where you listen to it and then you forget about it, and you probably won't revisit again. Just off the bat. Couldn't find any streaming stats. Tried to find some streaming stats to back up my argument. Still looking for those. Not easy to find, but yeah. Sleazy World Go, I Want Blood, released this year. I was not impressed. And Sleazy World Go, man, despite he has some bangers on him, man. So I really expected a lot from Sleazy World Go, man, this time around. But this time around, it disappointed me. The production, mind you, the production was always on point. But it's not about the production. He This album had a lack of versatility. It had a lack of. It didn't make a statement like I'm gonna be here in the rap game for a while. I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna mark my name, my territory. It didn't feel and sound like that. Just felt like another album you listen to once and you never want to listen to again. Next up on the list, I know this is going to be very controversial. I know this is going to ruffle a lot of feathers. I know a lot of people, man, probably going to cancel me when I say this. Don Toliver, Octane, no Don. And this is Don's 5th studio album. I was so disappointed in Don. I was expecting something really epic because I'm a Don Toliver fan. And this really didn't have the same spark. Didn't really have the same feel to it. And it's no surprise because we're now in March and no one is raving and screaming at the top of their lungs about this album. Everyone is just quiet. It's just a lot of people that I've asked to, a lot of people that I've spoken to, conversed with, went back and forth with, man, they just said it was a pretty mid album. I was quite disappointed in Don. The fact that it took me I think 2 weeks to realize that Don actually released an album, that says it all right there. But nonetheless, his best tracks from the album Octane were E85, Body, Rendezvous, All the Signs, K9, and Excavator. And I think he had, and that's just it. This is just my opinion. And he had, I think, how many tracks on the album? I don't know. I think 13, 14, 15. I don't know. It's just somewhere there. And the weak points about this album is not that he isn't talented as a producer, artist, but for his 5th studio album, this album should have had more. I mean, if you are 5 albums in, you are supposed to be cultivating an iconic, legendary status, image, and running. You're supposed to be, building that legendary, I am here, like I'm going to be remembered as one of the greats, one of the Hall of Famers. And for a 5th studio album, man, it just didn't like the punch. Just didn't have that. Just didn't have that thing, man. Even though Don Toliver is one of the best artists, good performer, singer-songwriter, producer, but this album for me just didn't do it well. For me, this album, he didn't shift it up. He didn't cook it up the way we know Don to cook up an album. So that regard, man, reluctantly have to put Don Toliver's Octane album as one of the worst albums of 2026. Anyways, if you watch this far, man, you know what you have to do. Like and subscribe. And I'll be back with another one. See you on the next episode. Peace.